Hey, everybody. It's a good day for my fellow ASTI community. Our 2026 conference may be over, but the learning is not stopping. My name is Melody McAllister, and as the director of ASTI, I'd like to welcome Mark Quattrocchi. Mark, did I say your last name right?
You got it, Melody. You did.
Okay, also, I'm sorry. I should have asked you that before we went live. But Mark is from Sprig Learning, one of our newest sponsors. And this is the third in our post-ASTI webinar series. But before we get started, I want to thank Mark and Sprig Learning for being part of our ASTI conference this year. We could not do this annual event without our sponsors. In preparation for ASTI, I was able to talk to Mark a few times, and I was so excited to learn more about Sprig Learning. I think the resources and tech he's sharing about Indigenous learning is spot on for our Alaskan culture and standards. Did you talk to Mark at ASTI? Because whenever I looked at his booth, he was always talking with someone, and it made me so happy. His webinar today, Reimagining Early Literacy, Empowering Educators and Celebrating Culturally Responsive Innovation, is all about exploring how digital progress monitoring tools like Sprig Reading can help educators close reading gaps, personalize instruction, and celebrate cultural diversity through customized Indigenous education resources, all while making learning engaging, impactful. That was a mouthful. Thank you for bearing with me. Before we get started, Mark, how are you doing? How did you like ASTI? And can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Melody. And thanks for having me on today. I want to start by just saying that. And so nice to talk with you again. One of my favorite parts about ASTI is just talking with yourself, talking with all the organizers. You have an incredible team, and we're able to put on such a fantastic event. And as a vendor, I've been to a number of conferences as an attendee, as an exhibitor, and just felt so welcome, and so many great conversations in terms of just getting to know people, getting to know more about Alaska. It was Sprig Learning. We're Ottawa-based, Canada-based organization, and it was our first time to Alaska. My first time to Alaska, and I just felt so welcome and so happy to be there. One of the greatest things, you're saying I'm always at my booth talking to someone. I did a lot of talking, but I also did a lot of listening. And what I heard there was just a lot of passion. People coming from near and far to ASTI to be there, to learn, to grow, and just to share their little piece of Alaska. And it was such a great experience.
I love that so much. And our ASTI board president says we love Sprig. We really do. And there's so much, even though you are in Ottawa, Canada, and we're here in Anchorage and all over Alaska, there's just so much that we have in common. So when I got to talk with you, I absolutely love that, like the Indigenous resources that you're going to share, like those are really special to us as well. And in my classroom, I do have Alaska Native students, and we have a pretty large population of Alaska Native students in our school, and like getting to be more culturally responsive is something that I definitely feel is important for myself and other teachers.
No, absolutely, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I wanted to come to Alaska to learn, but also to be able to support with some of the good work that we're doing here in Canada. And I see a lot of lineage there and what we can do to support each other and grow, and to be able to support teachers, most importantly, and the students in the classroom. That's why we do what we do. It's for people like you, Melody. Like, you're in the classroom and you're working with students, and if you don't have the resources that you need to be able to engage them in the proper way, then it becomes more difficult. We want to make learning fun. We want to make it relevant. That's what it's all about.
Totally. And you want kids to come to class, all across the, probably country and probably in Canada too. We're facing a lot of troubles just getting kids to come to school. And, if we can give them a reason to keep coming back, I think that's really important. So, let me know when you're ready and we'll get your presentation. I can't wait to get started. And I'll be sharing resources as Mark kind of shares more about Sprig Learning and Sprig Reading. And let us know if you're listening, if you have any comments, if you have questions, where you're coming in from. We love that back and forth, and we look forward to sharing with everybody who's watching live and afterwards.
Yeah, please comment, ask a question. I'd be happy to even slow things down and not just wait to the end if we need to, because I want this to feel more like a conversation. I'll be sharing some slides. I'll be sharing some a couple of little video clips here and there embedded in the presentation. But ultimately, my goal here is to be able to just share a bit more about what we're up to, how you can engage with us, how you can get involved, and how we can support you and work with you. That's the ultimate goal. So again, thanks for having me, and let's kick things off. We can share that presentation. Yeah, this was nice pictures of myself. I grew a little bit of a thing since then, but it was a great presentation to be able to. I'm kind of resharing a little bit of what I shared at ASTI. Everyone was so busy going every which way to different presentations. So I thought it would be great to kind of reiterate what I was kind of sharing there. And this is kind of what I was sharing at my table anyway, at my booth, and in the conversations I was having, whether at the booth or maybe that was, after hours somewhere, talking to someone, because the conversations didn't just stop, when the breakout rooms were done. It was across, a few days, and it was really great to see. A bit about myself as I kind of start this off. Why am I in this space? Why should I be talking about this? For me, at the core of it, I'm a teacher. So I've taught overseas in China. I've taught overseas at a Canadian International School for 4 years. I've lived in South Korea as well, teaching English. I've also taught in Canada. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is education. It's in my family. It's many people in my family are teachers, principals, those types of things. And so I always grew up in a very supportive, when we talk about education, a very supportive home. Education was very important. For me, something that I always was passionate about was reading. And being able to, have access to books and those things, whether it's going to the library and those types of things, expanding and learning about new stories and those types of things. And I think that's where that passion grew, to be able to want to work with students, to work with, in education. And so for me as well, I think that world travel, those types of things all brought it together to be able to eventually come work for Sprig Learning, mainly because I like to feel when I work with an organization and the work that I do that I'm having an impact. So I always felt like I did that as a teacher. Like I always felt like even if it was a small incremental little thing, right? There was something happening in the classroom. I felt the student got something that day. That was always special to me. With Sprig Learning, I feel I can connect with a lot of different people, and I can support educators in the classroom to have those tools and that Indigenous aspect, that connecting with sometimes the more marginalized communities throughout the world, and to be able to support those students to achieve their goals is something that's super important to me. And as we kind of get going, from Sprig, we want to start things off with a bit of like a way to say thank you for joining in here today. So something that was really popular at ASTI this year was Underlay. And so we have our moose puppet. I love Underlay. Here he is. And he actually has haptic sensors in his nostrils. So you can play with the iPad. You can tell the story at the same time that you're doing. You're doing a story and you're reading the story at the same time you're talking with Underlay. And so what we want to do is to be able to kind of give an offer in connection to both what we work with, which is progress monitoring and Indigenous resources. So we're offering, if you buy a moose, so you need to send me an email. My email is on the screen, Mark.Quattrocchi at spriglearning.com. And I'll send you a promo code where it'll take you to a link. And essentially you buy the moose and it gets shipped to Alaska. This is Alaska only. This is exclusive thing here. So Alaska only. It has a $500 value because with it, you'll get a year of Sprig Reading. So that's for the remainder of this school year and all of the following year. And you might be not thinking right now, what is Sprig Reading? I don't know what that is. Maybe exactly. You haven't heard of it before. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how Sprig Reading can support you in the classroom. And also, how you can bring a lovable moose into your classroom. And, it's great for the kindergarten up to grade 3, I find. So that's something.
Yeah. Okay, so I try to put your email up there. Did I get it right so that people can just copy and paste it? Mark Quattrocchi. It's 2 T's and 2 C's, guys.
Yeah, I'll repost it, making sure that you got the right one.
Anthony says, great deal. I agree. Just for Alaskan educators. I love it.
Yes, just for Alaskan educators, just for basically just for ASTI for this session. So that's what we're offering.
Just for ASTI.
Just for ASTI.
Yes, which is a great reason to be a member. So I love it. I'm gonna showcase Mark's email again, just in case I didn't spell it correctly. Make sure to reach out to him if you are interested in getting. Wait, what is his name? Is Antlers?
Underlay. It's basically spelled antlers and Antlay, but yeah, for sure. You got it, Melody.
I'm so silly. Okay, wonderful. And yeah, I love it. And our mascot at my school is a moose, so I can't wait.
Well, your moose is on the way, Melody. It should have been there by now.
I know. I wonder if I wondered, why haven't they given me the mail yet? I don't know, but yes. And if you want to go full screen to show on delay, you know what I mean, let me know and I'll bring full screen so everybody can see him as well.
Sounds good. But yeah, that's what we're kind of offering here. And it's just a little bit of a thank you. Please feel free to reach out, even if you don't want to purchase the moose or anything like that, or if you just want to reach out and learn more about our programming, I would be happy to connect with you and we can chat back and forth. You have my email there, and we'll share it again at the end. To share a bit about Sprig Learning as a company, we started in 2018 officially, so not too long ago. But essentially, our goal is to give every child a fair shot at success. That's the main goal of what we do. That starts at home, that's at school, and that's in the community. By all of us working together, we can support students on a daily basis. And one of those things that we often like to share is where we work. And so it's typically in that pre-kindergarten to grade 3 space. But if we talk about, for example, Sprig Reading, which will be the focus of today, when we look at Sprig Reading, it is what we call a tier 1 tool. So it's for all students, but that can be used, Sprig Reading can be used all the way up to grade 8. Typically it's a kindergarten to grade 3 tool, but it actually can be used as a tier 2, tier 3 intervention. Sprig Reading, and I'll talk a bit more about this as well, is a teacher tool, and it is designed for teachers to support them and their students in the classroom. So
is it okay if I say something?
Go for it. Yeah, jump in at any point, Melody.
Do you mind going back to the other screen?
Yeah.
So what I love about this, and I'm a 3rd grade teacher, and I do have a 2nd grade, 3rd grade combo, but this is great for our Alaska Reads Act, where we are really making sure that our K through 3 students are literate. And there's a huge emphasis on this. I had to go through quite a bit of training this year, and teachers from K through 3 have to. So another thing that really makes me like this program is just that it really aligns with what our state is trying to do with literacy.
Absolutely. And I'm going to show something a little bit later on that will make you really excited, I think, when we talk about the Alaska Reads Act and the Alaska state standards, because our goal is really to focus on the students that tend to not succeed in the system. In doing so, we can lean on cultural and contextual, environmental factors, as well as practices to be able to support those students. And what we do is to give tools that these tools need to be reflective of the student's culture, of their context. And this is why we co-design. This is why we co-create Indigenous resources with educators, families, elders, knowledge keepers, and communities. So we look at the whole child with all of our tools and all of our resources, as you should, building these programs with students in mind. And so we have customized features and tools that help support students, and teachers and the systems in these, students are part of these systems, part of these environments, and so are teachers. We want to be able to support them. And it's not just Indigenous, or, for example, Inuit focused, but all students, marginalized, Black, Latino, low income, so on. So, basically, as I said before, who generally don't or struggle in the systems. When you talked before, Melody, about attendance, people just coming to school. It's being able to tap into that learning style that makes them unique, and we want to be able to support them on a daily basis. And one way that we do that is through with the Sprig Reading is through progress monitoring. So when I say progress monitoring, Melody, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What kind of comes to mind? You can use your classroom as an example, but progress monitoring, what are some examples from your class? What are some things that come to mind when we talk about this topic?
Yeah. So depending on like how our students score, and we do the M-class suite and everything, you know, and how they score. So if they're below or well below, those are the students that we choose to progress monitor. And, you know, we try to test our below students at least once a month, and then our well below twice a month. I try to just progress monitor everybody twice a month because, you know, I really like, you know, it's not everybody in the class. I probably have less than 10 kids that I do this with. And, you know, they come and sit by me and they do the testing where they're like, ours is made up words, right? So they have a minute where they have to use their phonetic skills to read these made up words. And at first it's kind of weird, but they get really used to it. And so that's kind of what we do. And then we, you know, it keeps track of our scoring and things like that. And then we share that, we document it, we share it with parents quite a few times through the year. And then we analyze it at the end of the year and see if they need more help or if they have made enough progress. That's what it looks like in my classroom.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great example. You know, that's the example of like, ongoing assessment, that's actually diagnostic assessment too, those nonsense words. That's a real tell. And those nonsense words are tough and tricky and weird. And like, they're like, this is not right. I don't feel right. But once they get the hang of it, then no, it's definitely grounded in that science of reading, that idea of supporting students, you know, where they're at. And so you get that base level idea, how they're progressing. Typically, this is what progress monitoring kind of looks like in the classroom. You know, for me, I was using like, when I was in the grade 5 classroom, an Excel document that I had going on, you know, and it was good a little bit, you know, for report cards and things like that, but it was missing a lot of pieces. Sometimes people did it by hand, sticky notes, like check boxes, you know, connected to the state standards, those types of things. And this is, you know, we've kind of designed this idea here. We call this our, you know, it's a 2x2. This is the assessment reading landscape. So I'll kind of break it down a bit here. So essentially, you know, if you go top to bottom, you have all the students at the top, so all students, and then at the bottom, you know, your at-risk students, and then across you have how often, you know, horizontally, how often an assessment happens. So you have your universal screeners. So those are the screeners, the early literacy screeners. I know Alaska does that happen, you know, one time, usually in, you know, probably September, October. And then depending on how the student does, maybe you do one again at the end of the year, May or April or something like that. And then you also have on there your summative assessments, which are, you know, your, you know, regular statewide testing and those types of things. What you're talking about is those diagnostic assessments that happen not like a little bit more frequently, but not for all students. And so where we come to play with Sprig Reading is in that really important top right-hand corner. So it's for all students on a consistent basis. So it's being able to progress, monitor, and track all the skills required to read at grade level for all students. Now, that might seem like a lot, but when we start to break it down, it becomes a bit more manageable. And through the Sprig Reading tool, we can design it in a way so that you can filter by grade, filter by skills, filter by all these things. So basically, what Sprig Reading is, you know, when you break it down, is a digital progress monitoring tool for pre-K to grade 3, and that tracks all skills for all students. So that's actually a lot. So it's actually 208 skills required to read at grade level by the end of grade 3, and 220 high frequency words or sight words, whatever you want to call them, based upon the latest science of reading research. So it's a lot there. And it's important to progress monitor because, for example, you know, if you do an assessment, you have that screener at the beginning of the year and the student does well, and you don't do anything in between, you don't do any progress monitoring, you're just observing, you're looking at their work, things can fall through the cracks. and eventually you get to the end of the year and you realize they don't know how to blend. They don't know how to, they don't know what a digraph is. They don't know how to make that sound. They don't know their CVC words and those types of things. So what we like to do is kind of break it down to this perfect world. So we want to have a tool that's easy to use and intuitive for teachers. It can't be another thing. Teachers don't need it. Right. Teachers don't need another thing. They already have enough on their plate. I know for myself, that's a real thing. It covers all the foundational reading skills. It also provides data that drives instruction. That's where Sprig Reading really comes in, is actually gives you the data and you can make sense of that data to help form your student groups. Your kidney bean tables, like those types of things. So like when you are doing those small group activities, or when you need to kind of pull 3 or 4 students aside, you know exactly, who's been struggling, and you know exactly, what support they need. It also enhances what you already have. And I'll get into that a little bit later on, because as I said, we don't want to be something else, because when you look at what a teacher has to cover, this is all the skills. It's a pile, like it's really hard to see. But essentially all these skills break down into, 6 main buckets, which is oral language and vocabulary, phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and those high frequency words. What we find typically is that there's a lot of focus on phonics. There's a lot of focus on phonological awareness in the classroom, especially in the early years. But where people miss and where students kind of slip through is that comprehension and fluency piece, right? So they could read all day long. They could read the hardest novel that's ever, they could read something at a grade 8 level, but do they understand it? Do they understand what they are reading? And can they, express it back to you in logical terms? So, we like to break it down in this way that, that is easy to use, and it isn't intuitive for teachers to be able to kind of log in, get going. With Sprig Reading, it's like 10 minutes. You're ready. You're off to the races. You got all your students in, and, everything is off to go. But essentially what you have is your student names on the left-hand side, and you have your skills at the top, the foundational skills. So this is just simple, a lowercase b, all that. So this is, we're talking pre-K, kindergarten, early grade 1 kind of things here. And then you have a legend here. And so essentially you're filling in these circle charts when a skill has been assessed. So that's the color coding. That's nice and bright and beautiful. And essentially, has a skill been mastered? Does it need more practice, or does it need more explicit instruction? And so you're going through, you're doing a lesson, and it's made for the iPad. But it can be used on anything. It can be used on Chromebooks. It can be used on a desktop, and it can be even used on your phone. And so essentially, it's a running record of what's happening in the class. And I'll show how it kind of works a little bit more, in connection to what you're already using. And so again, we're diving into all these skills. And so there, as I mentioned, there's 208 skills, 220 high frequency words that students need to be able to master by the end of grade 3 to just read at grade level, to read at that grade level. They don't all happen in 1 year, but if they master those skills, they will be able to read, period. They will be able to read. And so Sprig Reading really is, for me, it's something I wish I kind of had when I was in the classroom, but it's the only platform that has all those skills in one place. There's other things out there that kind of, it's a little bit here, a little bit there, but it actually takes all those skills that are required, and it's data driven. And so, for example, in this situation, the one that's highlighted, you can see, for example, the letter C, maybe a bit of a miss. I can see, for example, as well, Adil in the second row down, also a bit of a, struggling with some of the lowercase letters. So I can see that data. I can flag it to the early interventionist person. It's not meant to be just on the homeroom teacher. It never is, but it often does fall on that homeroom teacher. It's meant to be a collaborative effort. You can put in comments, you can write notes, you can take pictures and videos of the students' work. And it's something great that you could share with families too at interview time and when you're having those tough conversations, but also when you're celebrating those victories, right? That's super important. Celebrating those victories for those students. And, it might be incremental. They may have just been able to, identify a few more, digraphs or a few more consonants, for example, but you want to be able to celebrate that with those students. And it provides reports for the teacher. and it reports out at the student level, at the classroom level, at the district level, at the school level and district level, all this data, and it can bucket into like, is it phonics that we're struggling with as a school? Is it comprehension we're struggling with as a school? And all these pieces really do level up to see where do we need extra support, or actually where can we invest our time in so our students are succeeding. And the last piece there is enhancing your existing resources. So I think this is one of the most important parts about Sprig Reading, is that it enhances, like, for example, you got UFly right here.
Right.
Manual. Yeah, it's huge. It's heavy. It's a huge book. But what essentially we have done is take all those skills, and UFly tests a large majority of them, not so much the fluency and the comprehension, but what we've done is actually take all those skills, and if, for example, lesson 1, you have about 3 new skills, lesson 2, you have 3 new skills, and those are all grounded in the science of reading. Those are all the skills required to read at grade level, and so those are all just done in sequential order. It drops down, and you can just click and go. You don't have to start at lesson 1. You don't need to backtrack. If you're on lesson 47 with UFly, you can pick Sprig Reading right up and start going from there. You don't need to backtrack or anything like that.
That's incredible. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So, and I love that, because part of our WIN groups, I mean, yeah, we break our students up, and UFly is definitely something. And I want to just say that Crystal says that she had so much fun meeting you at the conference. Thank you, Crystal. So is this something like, so we do like a WIN group every 40 minutes at the end of the day, and we break our students into like what skill that they need to really work on. And it changes according to whatever, like their progress monitoring, and then of course their evaluation. And so is Sprig, and we're talking about Sprig Reading, right?
Yep, this is Sprig Reading specific. Okay. Yeah, and I'll get into some of the Indigenous resources called how do we meld those two things in a second.
Okay. So are they, like, when they're doing the UFly, is this like a lesson that I could print off? Is this a lesson that kids get on their Chromebook and do? Like, what is the delivery like for this?
Yeah, so the teacher is just doing the regular delivery of how they would deliver the UFly lesson if they're using UFly, or your regular phonics lesson. Depends on the approach, and not every school uses UFly. I get that. This is just one alignment that we found very, very helpful in terms of supporting educators in the classroom, whether that's at tier 1. Sometimes UFly is used at tier 2 level to support students that way. But essentially, it is a teacher tool. We do have embedded activities and resources, and I'll share what that kind of looks like depending on the skills that you're tackling. So we do supply some supplemental things. We also have embedded PD on every one of those buckets, the 6 buckets. We have a 20-minute PD through our partners at Ascend Smarter Intervention. They're leaders in the latest science of reading research. And so all that kind of comes together to be able to support the teacher in the classroom. This is a teacher tool. The students don't interact with Sprig Reading unless, for example, you're printing off a resource, or maybe if you're working one-to-one, they can fill in the circle chart with it on their own. But the idea is that it's a teacher tool. It's meant to be a progress monitoring assessment, running assessment throughout the year, and all that data. So like one great thing for me as a teacher. So you have a student in grade 1, well, all that data carries forward to grade 2, and you're not starting fresh as a teacher. You have all that data, even if you transfer from a different school within like, for example, Anchorage, that data would follow you as well.
Awesome. So this is not like a sit and get on your Chromebook, on your iPad. This is just a teacher tool to use while you're teaching phonics and all of that for your K through 3, but possibly up to 8th grade. All right. I like that. I like it for another reason, because I think a lot of teachers are not looking for another program to stick their kids in front of. No. And so to hear you say this, it makes me feel good, because what I'm trying to promote, especially in my role, is that using tech in a balanced way is definitely something that we're looking for. So I love it. And I really appreciate this as an educator who would be using this tool.
Yeah, and absolutely. It is a tool that is designed by teachers for teachers. That's the purpose. Yeah, that's the 100% purpose, is to be able to support the teacher in the classroom, tracking individual students, tracking the whole class. And one really important thing is we've also created a alignment here. I'll make that a little bit bigger with the Alaska State Standards. So we can filter, for example, by UFly in Sprig Reading, but you can also filter by the Alaska State Standards. And so these are the standards that you're actually reporting out on your report card. So you could dive into, for example, let's say it would, you want to filter specifically by grade. Let's say maybe it's grade 1, so or grade 2. You just click, how you want to filter that, and that will actually shuffle the deck on the Alaska State Standards. And then you can kind of go from there and actually dive into, let's say, phonological awareness. And so produces rhyming words, syllables, and spoken words. And then you can kind of fill it out for Brandon and go on and so forth. And this is something that, as a teacher, come report card time, makes doing those, reporting out on those state standards really quite easy for teachers. So that's something that we've done. We've also embedded a culturally relevant resources within there, and I'll show you where those can be found in a second.
I like the full screen if you can keep it, but I don't know if you can keep it. I was trying to do that on my end, but whatever you did to make the screen larger, I love it.
I'll try to zoom in here. Give me a second.
And if you can't, like if it's not a button, I didn't know. Yeah, on your end, no worries.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on my end at
this
moment. But yeah, essentially, yeah. So essentially, yeah, we're connected to a number of different resources, and for example, decodables. We're adding decodables and things like that, and it's meant to be embedded within the teacher's regular day. It's not, again, meant to be something else. They've said, we've looked at some of our case studies and research, and every minute that you're kind of spending, work. Progress monitoring, you're actually saving 5 minutes in planning because you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You see where your gaps are, and actually gives you ideas for like, oh, I should be focusing on that. As a teacher, I actually don't do that. My students this year I was completely missing it because there's so many skills to cover. As I said, we look at professional development. We want to be able to support students there, and one of the most important things for us is data privacy and security. It's secure by design. We take this incredibly seriously. Our CTO is a world leader in supporting cybersecurity around the world, and so this is number one for us as well. Supporting student data, supporting teachers in the classroom data, and things like that. As I mentioned, we also have activities, a bunch of activities that are embedded, and you can actually filter those. By, let's say you're working on a CVC words, you can filter the activities by the CVC words that you're working on. We call this educational intelligence. And so it actually filters things that way, depending on what your class needs or where some of those gaps are. And we also have resources that are embedded. These are printable. You can put them on the smart board or you can print them off. Some of them are stories, and we're continuing to add to this all the time. So it does come as like something for like early finishers, or you can put it on the screen, and kids can do something in their notebooks at their desk. One thing that I'm very proud of as well is our success guarantee. So we have a 90% success guarantee with Sprig Reading, or it's actually your money back.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So there's not much risk to being able to use Sprig Reading. And so as long as it's being used on a consistent basis, so our 90% proven results, this is something that, it's not just downtown Chicago or Seattle. Actually, where we found we've been most successful are in those isolated northern those types of communities that students generally struggle with some of with reading comprehension and those types of things. And so Sprig Reading, that's kind of a look at, jump in.
Yeah, is it okay? I have a question. Do you remember Janitza? She was one of our opening keynotes. She is watching, and she has a great question. She said, this is great. I would love to see more student examples. Would you say you've had more success with a specific grade group?
So it is K to 3. Where we find it most successful is actually just starting it right in kindergarten. And that doesn't matter, urban, rural, marginalized, or, depending on where you are. We have found, for example, we work with a number of Indigenous communities across Canada, specifically, who are using Sprig Reading, and we found a high degree of success in those environments. Also because Sprig Reading is offline. So it's online, offline. So not when, like, of course, the internet's going to crash for sure. And so that's why it's been successful as well in those communities. So we can actually record the data, and it's not just lost to the next year or lost when the teacher leaves, or or something happens, like coffee spilled all over the notes and things like that. So it's secure. It's made to last. But Jerry, it's nice to see you. Me and her actually connected at one point after ASTI. It's just such a great, I think ASTI is such a great place to meet so many like-minded, interesting, cool people doing some similar work. So thanks for tuning in. That's great.
It is. She's amazing. And I'm going to have her get a webinar too. It's funny that you said coffee spill, because I literally did that yesterday. And I was like, oh man, yeah, it was crazy. It was on my table and my students had to help me get it all cleaned up, because it does happen.
It's a real thing. If people say it's not it's a real thing. Like,
yep.
So, I mean, as we kind of look, trying to transitioning here and saying, yes, okay, Sprig Reading is great. It's for teachers. It makes, able you can track all the skills to be able to read. We know that being able to read is one of the foundational indicators of success. And there is a really strong correlation between being able to read by the end of grade 3 and graduating at the end of high school. Unfortunately, that is the case, but being able to read at an earlier age, being able to support students and they don't fall behind at an early age is super important. And so many students are actually coming into school with what we call the 10,000 word gap. You've heard of that before, Melody? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, I mean, students, many are, coming in, starting school in grade 1. Some students are not doing kindergarten, right? We know this, with, 10,000 words less, sometimes even more, like 10,000 words less. And this is not really a student issue. I don't see this as a student issue. It's a vocabulary issue. And so in many cases, English just isn't spoken at home, specifically like in Alaska and in many communities, especially the further you get, I would say, out of Anchorage, right? Students start from behind the starting gate with their vocabulary. And we see this, it is evident in every classroom, no matter where you go in the world, actually. So it's not just something that happens in Alaska. We know this, it happens across United States, across Canada, across the world. But it's usually more prevalent in communities that are isolated, that that are speaking a different language at home. Sprig Reading, as I said, is a tier 1 tool, but it's designed for a critical few that it's hyper focused on students that tend to struggle. And I love that you mentioned the Alaska Reads Act, because that's super important. Because we need to be research focused. We need to be data driven. We need to be informed. We need to have the right data grounded in the science of reading. And I know Alaska has truly embraced this idea and the way forward. And I think we're all on the right track with where that's going. However, we need more instructional materials in the classroom and culturally relevant resources that are localized and co-designed with Indigenous people. So, I mean, this will look at different. This will look different for the Dene in Alaska as opposed to Anishinaabe in Northern Ontario and Canada. We won't shift the needle, I think, here unless the tools and resources are intentionally designed and with pedagogy for school and for at home. Everything we do is rooted in this holistic approach. And we know that learning is not just done in the 4 walls of the classroom. We know that, especially like in Alaska, there's so much like with land-based learning and just like what you can gain from the family and the community and the elders. It's super important. And so what we do is basically we work with elders, we work with knowledge keepers, we work with educators to be able to create stories, to create characters that are reflective of the people in the community in which we're working. And so, for me, I'm a white male born in Canada, had, in many ways, every opportunity, access to water, access to education, access to libraries and books and things like that. And so, what we want to be able to do is speak with elders, speak with people in the community. So it's them leading the education, them leading the stories, and preserving this culture, history, and heritage. And so what we do is to create resources, though, that are fun and exciting and relatable for our younger students. Where we find for especially Indigenous communities, Inuit, Métis, First Nations, is that the stories that they're reading do not look like them, their culture, their history, their heritage. It's something from Chicago or Toronto. It's a story that is unrelatable. And so we want to be able to bring that to life through books and through stories. And so that's what we do. We create these stories, and they are connected with Sprig Reading. They're connected with the skills that are being taught. And so, like, for example, you got this book here.
Wait.
Yeah.
I want it to be big. So hold on. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Okay. Show it again. Okay.
So we have physical books. Like, we have these physical books that we create in partnership. For example, this book was created in partnership with the Mi'kmaq in Western Canada. The Mi'kmaq have been incredible in terms of being able to partner with us and create these stories. But we also have, like, on the iPad, we have all these stories are digital. What we do is we bring the voices of the elders into the story. You hear the accent, you hear the language. And so it's recorded in English, it's recorded in Tachone, it's recorded in Anishinaabe, it's recorded in whatever language is being taught, Cree, Dene, it could be, it just depends on where we're working. We work in over 10 different languages across 40 different communities, and we're always expanding. And we want to be able to tell those stories. And so it could be something about, for example, I was saying, like gathers medicine. Like, that's something that's really important in that community where this story was created. But maybe in Alaska, it's a completely different story. Maybe it's a completely different tradition. Maybe it's something entirely unique to that region. And what we do is we gather these stories in a way that is unique to that region. So, for example, in the app, you'll actually hear like birds chirping in the background that have been recorded in that community. You'll actually hear like the snow crunching as you're walking, as the characters are walking across the snow. In the actual books, the background is reflective of the community in which that we're working. So it actually, like, that looks like the tree in my backyard, like that kind of thing. So
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
When you say like the elders and have something to, like, do they actually read? Is it their voices that are recorded?
Absolutely.
It's not like, wow. So that's really incredible. It's not computer generated. It is real people.
None of it's AI generated. All of it is done. It's very manual. All of it. We're literally deciding on the story with the elders, with the community. Everyone's approving it. Everyone's improving the language. For example, that is appearing in the story. And then also it's then recorded. The voice is recorded and put into the digital version through our Sprig Library app, which is free, by the way. Anyone can go download Sprig Library right now. And you can listen to some Mi'kmaq stories. You can listen to some stories in English. Yeah, exactly. Melody, put it on the screen right there. So you can follow through there. If you have an iPad, unfortunately, unfortunately too, it's best on iPad. So you can search, if you have an iPad, Sprig Library, and you can search that out. But at the back of every book, there's a glossary. And then, like, for example, sometimes we do a combination depending on everything's custom. So if you want to change the title of the story and just have the title in the traditional language. And then you could also have, for example, Niskamin, for example, grandfather, like it'll be keywords that will be in the traditional language. So it depends on what people would like to create. And again, this is our Sprig Revitalization, our Sprig Library app with these interactive stories. We've also created YouTube shorts, which is really cool. So we actually have some videos. If we have time at the end, I'll play a snippet of a quick video. It's really fantastic. And then connected to that, I was just showing Underlay, but we have co-designed as well. We have our cute little hand puppets. And again, all these are designed in collaboration with the Mi'kmaq and Ahtnaway and Eastern Canada. But the goal here is to be able to bring characters into the classroom, give them their own personality, give them their own name. Yes, Underlay is Underlay, but like make Underlay what's special for your classroom. And oftentimes Like, for example, these puppets, sometimes they get sent home with the books and those types of things. And parents can help bring that to life. And because we're doing this, we're in this space, it also ends up being working with math resources and customizing things that way. With our Sprig language program, we've done these oral assessments to be able to track data pieces, and by using the hand puppets to help bring that to life. But when we look
really quick, I have a question from Jaritza, and I want to ask it.
Please, go for it.
It's okay. Okay, she says she had a couple of meetings today on America's literacy. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Literacy crisis and the need for literacy reform directly from states. Wondering if districts and schools in need can strategically utilize the comprehensive literacy. I'm sorry. I need to have some literacy coaching. Okay, can utilize the comprehensive literacy state development grant to support literacy across Alaska and receive access to some apps like Sprig Learning. Okay, yes. Somebody's been doing our homework. Thank you.
CLSD funding. Yes, this is for us. This is something that we're working towards and on. We want to continue to work towards this with the Department of Education. It is a bit of a process. And vetting, we are on that track to be able to tap into that CLSD funding. It is a bit of a challenge, but it's just to making sure there's a reason why there's a challenge behind it. I understand that is to make sure that resources that are being given into the hands of people that are through state funding are grounded in the science of reading. They're approved in the proper way. But yes, Jaritza, yes, you have been doing your homework, so thank you. But yes, CLSD funding across US, this is something that's super important to be able to tap into for educators. It is a unique bucket of funding that usually I don't know how it just is not touched. It is allocated it's over usually a 4 or 5 year period. So look into CLSD funding in your area, and there's also there's the Alaska programs that are approved, and we're working towards that right now because it's super important to be able for educators, for districts to be able to tap into that.
Yeah. Okay. I know. Wait. Go back to the other. I just want to say, those three. Oh, go to the community, parent.
Yeah.
Educators.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to say that this is where my heart is, honestly. The media likes to portray that, likes to pit parents and educators against each other. But honestly, we do make the community together. And I get to work with amazing parents, open-minded parents, supportive parents. And I work in a very, very supportive community. And so the fact that you guys have made this priority for me, that's and then you're talking about the whole child. That's something that I've talked about when I do presentations, really looking at if you're not looking at the whole child, you're missing a cornerstone piece to reach your children in front of you. And so just as an educator who really cares about this and who cares about building community, these are things that if you're not looking at it and you're not prioritizing, it's really fundamentally not going to work long term. So thank you.
Absolutely. These three pieces they're not disconnected. They are very much connected. What happens at home, what happens at school, what happens in the community affects that whole child. Right. And so that's never going to change. These pieces, when they work in harmony, that's when you have a happy learner, right? Right. And when these pieces are when they're connecting, when they're talking, when they're communicating, when they're not in strife with one another, then that's when the learners can be successful. When it's not this idea of parents versus the teacher, or community versus the parents, or someone holding someone else back. No, we want to be able to support that as the whole student. And then they want to come home with exciting stories. I learned this in school today, right? And you want to talk about it at home, and then you want to be able to see that happening in your community. So they are very much connected. And for us, just to kind of ground us in that even a little bit further, is that, at its core, the origins of Sprig come from this holistic assessment, that's where we are very passionate about that idea of assessment and being able to support teachers and students in the classroom, and making sure it's in line with the latest research and what learning, as I said before, Chicago perspective in Alaska really doesn't work. Right. So it's bringing that community into it. So we have, for example, here our Inuit holistic lifelong learning model. And so I can share some of these types of things too after, so you can kind of zone in on them. But learning should be experiential. So we develop tools that align to that Indigenous perspective, and it all kind of comes back to this, our 2x2. And so, is looking back at where we started. Sprig Reading is about assessing those skills. However, when we do that, we need to bring in the culture. We need to bring in the context to those skills that are being assessed. And we do that through, it's not just our stories. Like, there's tons of great resources in Alaska already too. But it's bringing in stories that are important to those individual communities, that are up to date. And that's what learning is all about. This is education with the whole student, as you're saying, the whole student in mind. And by what we kind of call redefining, we hear this all the time, redefining what success looks like and how it's measured in a specific community. We can start to see results that are tangible, and it makes for happier learners when they're learning about things that are completely relevant to their daily life. When they come home with a story they didn't know, maybe you show them a cool YouTube video and you had a discussion. Maybe it's a story about a tradition that they hadn't really experienced in their family before, and then maybe their parents, their grandparents can talk to them about that, and maybe why that's changed, or maybe we can bring that back, and that's how I think real learning happens, and that's where you see those light bulbs coming on.
Yeah, and I can imagine, using these resources, and I think that there's also a more equitable piece about using the books that you hold, not having to completely rely on technology to be able to practice and reinforce a lot of these skills. And then, just the reinforcement of, language and the revitalization and the priority on that, which is a priority across our state. And definitely the further north you get and the more, it's like honestly, we don't have necessarily the same type of Wi-Fi and internet access across our entire state, which makes Alaska very unique in that. And I think about that a lot, to be honest with you, in my position at ASTI. So what kind of thrills me is just those areas and those and the people that want to revitalize their language and all the things that were lost when we kind of tried to, I don't know, for a lack of a better word, kind of whitewash everything, right? And instill culture. And so I really like this. I think it's, right on. And the bridge, I think of it as a bridge where you're learning from school and you're going from home and back and forth. And those, the things that are important in families and school, they come together and they're not separate. And we don't see that enough in education. And I think that's kind of harmful, to be honest with you. So I do like this. I'm sorry, I'll stop talking. But I kind of see in this program something different than what I've seen in other programs. And I really think it's great.
Thank you, Melody. And yeah, it's something that's super important, especially that revitalization of language piece, and being able to preserve that. We worked with organizations before to for example, develop Indigenous keyboards. We worked with to be able to students can actually type in their native language. We've also been able to bring back or preserve languages for the younger generation, because if they're not starting to learn it, in kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, it becomes harder and harder. And then, over the years that excitement. And so they're kid stories. They're stories that are relevant. It could be about making a specific dish. I'll show you a quick video before we go. It could be about making a quick dish. It could be about going to a powwow, and it's culturally relevant to the area. So, for example, the characters that we have the fox, the beaver, and things like that. But maybe that's important in Ontario, for example. But in Alaska, maybe it's the raven, maybe it is the wolf, maybe it is the polar bear, the eagle. And so you want to have That's what we talk about, being responsive to the environment in which you're in. It's super important.
The Raven is very important.
Of course. Yes, Raven is very important. And, to kind of finish things off, just as a reminder, if you do want to learn more, or you want a moose, if you want access to Sprig Reading for the year, feel free to reach out to myself. I'll share that promo code with you. If you want to learn more about Sprig Learning, you can always scan this code. This will take you to our webpage, specifically to Sprig Reading, and you can kind of scan that now if you like, or just type in spriglearning.com. It'll get you there. I'm going to stop sharing this screen for now, if that makes sense. And I'd like to end in like a kind of a feel-good kind of story. Just give me a second.
I know it's so ridiculous how the sun is. I love this room, but yes, and I put your email on the screen. If you're interested in getting the moose and Sprig Reading free for a year. And I love that you're not just going till the end of the year, you're going like end it strong and begin it strong. I love it.
Like get started, get used to it right now, and then have it for the whole next year. And then we can talk about how we can support your school, support more teachers, support your co-teacher. That usually is a great thing, and bring other people into it that way. Let's see.
And I put your email on there, so just reach out to Mark. And if you, I can reach out and make an introduction if necessary. Anthony, our ASTI president, says, thank you so much for sharing such an incredible tool with our membership. Yes. And then,
thanks, Anthony, you're the best.
And then our friend, my best friend, Emily says, Mel and Mark, you're both amazing. And she's an amazing teacher. One of my most favorite teachers, also an ASTI member.
Emily's
so yes, totally.
Thanks for joining, Emily. Thanks for everyone for joining. I'm going to share a quick video here. I know we're kind of at time, and people are looking to get some. I know it's Alaska time. I'm looking to go to bed here soon. It's 9:30, but it's like dinner time there, so I get that. People have had a long day. This is our I guess you call our our revitalization section of our website. This is our website, nice and beautiful and colorful. I'll share a quick story. It's going to be in the native language in Mi'kmaq. It's about making lushkinikin, and I'll just share a tiny portion of it.
Oi, Gwilym and Elliot.
Hammesi wedi do lose kanikan no kumi.
Oh, Elliot. They'll did him get spotted up now. Wulagu. Get up on him in below.
Basically, I want to make the bread. I want to make this. Oh, I'll make it with you.
Do?
Kello.
Elliot. Kesada mamal dochtik.
Walalin no kumi.
Na Williak, Elliot. Nakasip tinasi. Keskedel ma wodu ko hoy nuda. Uldo no lose kanikan.
Oh, well, that's in Anike. Socket, we do lose kanikanum.
Na Elliot, aladu lach pisudi. Das gemidel dochtik. Gedu abe squal siu.
Walalin no kumi. Kijadi get on it eltum.
Kiji dochtedo. Nasik tebautiges kumadum Elliot. Dunk, amush pama wodu ko hoy godum.
Kui no dachel don't lose kanikan.
Nudades nugnanijig, hanipsum quabeshkel. Newijig meskel kigem huanchij, abida da hane. Neutejid abchejim huanchij, salaway. Akadaik hanipsumun mime. Tabusijig hanipsumunk samwan. Nudanelt meskilk eptahan. Gosignar. Nadugan milk iptinat. Could they kill Elliot?
So I was going to pause it there. Essentially, they actually get into it. They make the you call it bannock. It's lushkinikin. Everyone has their own way to make It's a version of fried bread. But what it instills and what it shows is not just how to make it for that community, but it starts a conversation. Like, that's not how we make it at our house. That's not how, let's try to make it. Like, it's all that, right? And so these are the stories we want to preserve. These are the, this is one example of a traditional, food, but it's also a conversation starter. And we have the video in English, it's in French, it's in Mi'kmaq, and that's some of the work that we've been able to be privileged to be able to be a part of. And just want to thank, as on this kind of idea of gratitude, thank the people that are, in our corner to be able to do this work, and thank all the teachers that joined here today. And it's just such a great opportunity to be able to engage students in a way that is authentic and is exciting for them and makes learning fun.
I love it. I've never seen something like this, and I think it's very special and very timely. And just something that we definitely need. I'm so excited that Sprig Learning is part of ASTI now. And I hope that you guys will come back, but because I feel like we'll just get it started and we want that relationship to grow. So thank you, Mark, and thank you, Sprig Learning, for being a part of our community. And I just want to say to everybody who watched live, or even those people who watch afterwards, thank you so much for joining us today, for listening. Become part of our community on Facebook. Stay in touch with educators across Alaska. Find out what makes us amazing and be a part of that too. And also, this isn't the end. Next week, it's April 1st, but this is no joke. Get it? April 1st. We'll have our next webinar with Julian from Book Creator and Cam, with Book Creator from Cami. And again, we appreciate our community so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Mark, and for the time that you spent with us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Melly.
Bye, everybody. Bye.